So, Castlevania Season 4 on Netflix. It finally dropped last week. Felt like it took forever. I know that I missed out on reviewing Seasons 1, 2, and 3. For that, I do apologize. And even though this season is already getting rave reviews, I gotta be the devil's advocate here and say that I was a bit less than impressed. The production values are still top drawer. The animation could not be more gorgeous or detailed, and the voice acting is still absolutely, utterly perfect. I cannot think of one character that was miscast. But I feel like the show's writing underwent a definite drop from Seasons 1 and 2 into Seasons 3 and 4. For Seasons 1 and 2, honestly, it was bloody well perfect. Everything flowed perfectly, the story moved along nicely, it was of course delightfully graphic and gory, and especially I enjoyed that duel at the end with Trevor, Sypha, and Alucard against Dracula. This version of Dracula, I'm going to add in, has become one of my favorites. Ranks right up there alongside Bela Lugosi and Christopher Lee. Because what I really loved is this version doesn't just play into that trope of Dracula as this cultured, sophisticated European nobleman. In this version, he's also a straight-up badass. This is a Dracula that every other horror villain, from Freddy to Norman Bates to Pinhead, would all bow the knee to, and rightfully so. But nonetheless, in Season 3, they started a trend of having just too many plot lines running all at the same time, and it got frustrating from episode to episode. I mean, you would just start to really get involved with, the misadventures of Trevor and Sypha, and then they'd switch over to Alucard, or to Isaac and Hector, and it was just distracting and it dragged it down. On top of that, they started introducing all these smaller sub-characters who really, they were just distracting and they did not add much to the plot. And I feel like they just kept that up in Season 4. Something that I found particularly frustrating was the subplot of Carmilla and her vampire sisters. Look, alright, I understand Season 2 kind of resolved Dracula, and maybe you want to elevate someone else to be the primary antagonist for the following season. That's fine, and it works, and Carmilla certainly was a great villain. But why do you gotta have all the subplots? Alternatively, okay, Trevor and Sypha, they uncover the plot to resurrect Dracula. That's perfect, because that is such a major theme in all the games. But in that case, okay, drop the plot about Carmilla and her sisters wanting to conquer the world. Or at least make it a much smaller feature in the background. I'm going to add in here also that, personally, in Season 3, I feel like they should have basically cut Isaac the Forge Master out completely. It would have been far superior, in my opinion, to basically have him not play in Season 3 at all, and again, have the primary plot be about Carmilla and her sisters assuming the role as the main antagonist, and just have a few vague references to events in the East. And then come Season 4, the climax would be, Trevor, Alucard, and Sypha reunite. They have to have the big showdown with Carmilla and her sisters, but then, out of nowhere, in comes Isaac with his army of monsters, and suddenly it's a big free-for-all. That would have been a big shock twist that I think would have worked great. Now, in its favor, I will say something that delighted me about Season 4 was the reference to Varney the Vampire. I gotta be honest, it's not a well-written story. Little bit of horror history for you here. Varney the Vampire is a penny dreadful pamphlet from turn-of-the-century England. It was published weekly, again, pamphlet style, and they charged only a penny for it. At the time, that was a pretty sweet price. And the story of Varney the Vampire is one of the few penny dreadfuls that really survived and has a lasting legacy, because it did influence Bram Stoker when he was writing Dracula, and in point of fact, it's an influence on Barnabas Collins in Dark Shadows as well, because Barnabas's whole backstory basically is modeled on Sir Francis Varney's backstory. So them including a vampire character called Varney just delighted me. According to Netflix, this is the last season for this particular arc, which makes sense to me. The next thing to do, if you're continuing Castlevania, is jump forward into Simon Belmont as Trevor and Sypha's great, so on, grandson. But here again, that's a problem with the writing. They left so many loose ends dangling. What about Carmilla's 2 surviving sisters? What about Isaac and Hector, the Forge Masters? And what about you know who? Yeah, they just left so much open here that it's frustrating. I hope they've got something big planned for the next season going into Simon, but it's just annoying to think that they're probably going to end up dropping it all and moving into a totally different direction with it. And let's just all cross our fingers that they give us a worthwhile Simon and not this one.
Prima ballerina.
Showing my age with that reference. So overall, I rate Season 4 Castlevania as probably 2.5 out of 4 stars. You know, Season 1 and 2, they were total 4-star, the gold standard, and then it just went downhill. I hope you all agree with some of my commentary here. If you don't, hey, feel free to let me know and offer up any points of your own. As always, folks, I'm urging you to wash your hands, take your precautions. There's still a lot to go. Eat, drink, and be scary, and I'll see you next time.